The most excitement we see from our investors over the last 1 to 2 years are the opportunities to obtain tax write-offs for their investment. When we started out, we were raising millions of dollars from people who just wanted to be a part of passive real estate investing, which we still have many investors that are doing that. But now we've taken on a whole new wave of investors who are actually more excited about the write-offs. All of our investments, we have cash on cash, equity building. We expect to make good money on these investments through a number of different routes. But tax write-offs has seemed to be the most up-to-date or the most flavorful or the most traction and the most excitement over the last 1 to 2 years. There are a number of ways that you can make money or save money when it comes to tax write-offs in real estate. I would always suggest you check with your CPA, and that's a great place to start. I'll never forget when I first filed my first tax return after I bought my first apartment. It was a 20-unit apartment. And I filed taxes, and my taxes said that I had lost $3,000 that year. I thought that was good. I said, holy cow, I own a 20-unit apartment. I owned 50% of it, but I lost $3,000 on paper. That's amazing. Then somebody else I know in the community showed me their tax returns from a 25-unit where they lost over $100,000. And I was obviously perplexed. Every asset's a little different, but that's a big jump. And so I took my tax returns and I took them to a new CPA for a second opinion. No cost. That CPA, who is my CPA to this day, was able to get my write-offs from $3,000 to $96,000 just for that 1 year. It's important you work with a CPA who knows what they're doing. A number of our investors have their own CPA, but their own CPAs have had to talk with our real estate investment CPA so they better understood just the write-offs and the implications of real estate. Not all CPAs are well-versed in real estate write-offs. There are low-hanging fruit, don't get me wrong. I'm sure your CPA will talk about the home office deduction, which is obviously something that most CPAs know about. But CPAs, I'm gathering, are kind of like attorneys or doctors. They learn all 100 issues when they're getting licensed or certified or getting their degrees, but then they become specialized over time and they really only utilize 10 or 15 of those items. There's nothing wrong with that. CPAs are great whether they know real estate or not, but if you're going to invest in real estate, you need to make sure that you either have a CPA or accountant that knows what they're doing with real estate write-offs, or you invest with somebody like us that has connections to those type of CPAs and accountants who can help your CPA understand the write-offs and take advantage of them fully. So the most important thing recently for our investors have been write-offs. Super excited to go through these. There are at least 10 different ways you can obtain write-offs, and to be honest, there are more. These are the most common ways to get write-offs. Mortgage interest. It stinks because you're paying interest, and 3 years ago you were paying 3%. Now you're paying 8% or whatever your new loans are. That's interest. That's money that you typically don't want to spend. Understandable. If you've underwritten correctly, you plan on that, but here's the best part. Your tenants are paying that for you. So if you spent $10,000 in interest that year, that's a write-off that you're getting, but you didn't pay that. You used the income from the tenant to pay the mortgage statement or the interest on that mortgage statement, and that's a write-off. So you are now using that as a deduction from your income. Mortgage interest, it's something you'll always pay unless you own the property outright and you have no mortgage interest. Property taxes, the bane of my existence. These continue to increase everywhere, whether you're in a state that likes taxes or doesn't. It's a way that municipalities get money. It's understandable. These items are also write-offs. So if you planned correctly, you had a good tax projection specialist, or you worked with somebody who helped you project the taxes, then they weren't a surprise when they increased. And just like with mortgage interest, you're using the income from the tenant to pay the property taxes. That's a write-off. It's why you shouldn't have to pay taxes on those items, because it's a deduction. It's an expense to your income. Property taxes. Property insurance is another one. I would always suggest you insure your property, because just in the last 6 months, what you've seen the weather do in all parts of the country, insurance has been very important. In fact, there are places in Florida where you can't even find insurance anymore, which is unfortunate. I'm glad we're not invested there. But that insurance, just like taxes, just like mortgage interest, it's a write-off, but you're using the money from the tenant to pay those. The most exciting or the largest effect of write-offs is typically in the depreciation. And that's what I was speaking about earlier. There are 4 ways to make money in real estate. I went through it in a different video. You get the cash flow, and that's really what everybody thinks about. The property makes $10,000 a year. You have $9,000 of expenses, and so you made $1,000. Your cash flow is $1,000. That's one way to make money. The second way is just appreciation. Traditionally, jump on Google and just look over the last 50, 100 years, or the last 20 years for that matter. You're going to see a natural appreciation of real estate over time. Things become more and more valuable over time. That's just a natural appreciation that you're going to most likely see. And that's one of the ways you can make money. The third way is equity buy down, or equity build up, if you will. And what that means is the tenants are giving you money and you're paying down the equity. You're paying down the debt. The fourth way is depreciation. The fourth way that you can make money in real estate, and right now, the purpose of this video is depreciation. These are the write-offs. These are the lifespan of certain aspects of your asset, whether it's the parking lot, whether it's appliances, the roof. You used to have to spread those out and take them over 27 and a half years, or however many years each line item pertains to, because parking lots can be different than roofs, can be different than appliances. But if it was a $15,000 write-off for a roof, and let's just say for this conversation that was 15 years, you had to spread it out. You used to have to take $1,000 write-off for 15 years until you got to 15,000. With bonus depreciation, and we don't know where the bonus depreciation is going over the coming years, but right now you can take all of those items, anything 15 years or less, you can force those items into a write-off year one. It's down to 60%, but what that means is that $15,000 write-off that you used to have to spread over 15 years, you can now take 60% of that, $15,000, and take it all in year one. And that's huge. That we have a deal right now where a $100,000 investor, when they invest with us, they'll have approximately $50,000 in write-offs year one. And that's because, due to large part, mortgage interest, insurance, taxes, but a lot of it's depreciation, the bonus depreciation we're allowed to obtain through the tax code change in 2017. Where that goes, I do not know, but that depreciation is a huge write-off. Our investors love it. Repairs and maintenance. These are the toilets, the patched flooring, the hardware, light bulbs, leaky faucets. Nobody likes to have those. I would never volunteer to have those issues just for a write-off, but the silver lining, if you will, is if a unit's paying you $1,000 a month and you have to go in there and make a $150 fix, that's unfortunate because now you only have $850 to work with before you pay other expenses. But that $150 is a write-off. That fix to the toilet, the plumbing, that's a write-off. It's an expense that you're not paying. The tenant is paying. This isn't a shot at the tenant. The tenant's paying for housing. You're taking the risk as the owner, so they have to pay their rent. They knew what they were signing up for, but you get to use it as a write-off. Travel expenses, the trips to the property, you can write off mileage, the gas, depending upon how you want to write off your vehicle or your transportation, you can do it in a few different ways, but it could be through mileage, it could be gas, it could be monthly payments, it could be insurance payments. Check with your CPA, make sure they know what they're doing, but these are write-offs that you can take advantage of when investing in real estate. Professional fees, our attorneys, our CPAs, our tax projection specialists, these are people we utilize daily that are write-offs for the property. We expected them to come. We projected these expenses to come. They were part of our underwriting, but again, we're not paying these expenses. We're utilizing the income from tenants to pay these so that at the end of the year, there's a possibility that we're making cash flow, but our tax returns are showing we've lost money due to the depreciation and all these expenses and write-offs accumulated. Utilities. Sometimes you're having to pay utilities for the tenants. Now, one of our value-add approaches is that over time we change it so that the adult tenant is paying for their own utilities. But when you're stuck paying for maybe a vacant unit utility, or maybe a tenant, you have to evict them because they're not paying for the utilities, but you need to keep paying the utilities to keep them on. It's in the winter, different circumstances like that. Those are write-offs. Advertising and marketing. You need to advertise for the property. You need to advertise for your company. You need to advertise for the area, advertise for your property management company. These are write-offs. These are expenses that you can take away from your income. Overall, it's important to understand that all of these expenses, they do add up, and it's not like it doesn't affect your income. Of course, if you're pulling in $10,000 a month, but you have $9,000 in expenses, you may view that as, well, that's unfortunate because I could have made $10,000 in income, but it's not really realistic, but it's also what we use to leverage these investments. We know we're getting more in income than our expenses. We're still able to take tax write-offs. And with bonus depreciation and that ability to take on depreciation as a write-off, there are many years where you're putting money in your pocket through cash flow, but your K-1 or your tax returns state that you actually lost money on that property that year. Huge aspect for most of our investors, and something that certainly any real estate investor should be highly aware of.